Hey everyone, today I'm going to teach you how to create a really basic fashion illustration using inks, pencil, and what have we got? It's like a watercolor ink actually. It's Dr. P.H. Martin's. I've never used it before, it's just been sitting around here for ages, so I'm going to crack that out, plus a couple of the inks that I have on hand already, one of which is a red that I think will be too dark. So anyway, we're gonna start cracking into this in just a moment. The point of today's tutorial is to give you a really simple method for creating highly effective fashion illustration in the sense that it's a bang for your buck. Like the time investment and the effort and how difficult it is definitely pays off in terms of the end product. It's why I love illustrating in this way, and it's why it can be so much fun. You can also do a bunch in one night, which is fun. Okay, so getting started, I'm going to start by doing a really simple pencil sketch. You could actually go straight in with ink, to be honest. You don't actually need to have a pencil sketch for these pieces, but I just like the safety of a pencil sketch when I'm a little bit out of practice. So until I'm a bit more confident and I know exactly where I want my brush marks to be or pencil marks to be, I tend to start with pencil first. So I'm just doing a really basic head here. I will in a future tutorial show you how to draw faces for fashion illustration, plus give some basic tips which will apply for any faces. I've drawn in a really basic neck. You want to elongate that slightly anyway for fashion illustration. We want everything to look very graceful and elegant. The most important part of the fashion illustration is the clothes. So when you're approaching fashion illustration, keep that in mind. You want the other elements to just basically not be distracting is my goal, which sounds kind of depressing when you like to perfect certain elements, but at the end of the day, the more confidently you can create those marks for the hands, the face, the feet, the legs, etc., the less distracting it will be from the actual star of the show, which will likely be the clothes. So I've now almost completed the pencil sketch. I can go into this in more detail in future tutorials, but you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing here. It's just really simple mark making. Nothing is really that precise. I do have a reference picture. The brand is, if you search up AJE, I actually don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not sure if it's AJ or Age. I don't know. Search AJE. It's a dress of theirs from one of their recent collections, which I'm obsessed with. I would have absolutely nowhere to wear it to, but I just love the dress, so that's why I picked that one today. And we're gonna just keep on going on those details. You can kind of see I go into tidy up things and just sort of check them before I finish them. But again, we're not going for anything too precise at this early stage. Up next, I get out my black ink and supplies. So I think I'm literally just running with a small paintbrush and black ink and a cup of water for this. I should probably have paper towel and a palette and stuff, but I like to fly by the seat of my pants, as you can see here. Alright, so I'm going in and marking in the face first. I accidentally made it look like she had sunglasses, which was pretty funny. I haven't used craft paper before as my surface, and it's a lot more absorbent than I'm used to. Back in the day when I used to do a lot of fashion illustration, I would normally do it on watercolor paper, so do be mindful of the surface you pick to paint on. Alright, so there I am, continuing on doing the details for you. I accidentally gave her a bit of a comb over, so I spent some time fixing that. And then next up are the legs, so just really simple brush marks for that as well. I made the accident here of doing the front leg first. I should have done the back leg first, because you can see that I get to this point of trying to awkwardly squish the leg in and then just deciding to go over the top of the front leg anyway. You could really approach it either way, but yeah, you just sometimes as you're painting, you'll realize that you've just painted it in the most bizarre order and you'll be forced to find a way to fix that, which is all part of the learning process, so it's not a bad thing to do. Alright, so now I'm coming in to do the hands. If you've watched my first video on fashion illustration, you should be feeling pretty confident with this right now. If not, go back and watch that one. I will do a condensed version of that eventually, but I've just started with the long version to give you a proper explanation of it. But as you can see, when you're actually using it in fashion illustration, the hands are often so tiny anyway. They can sometimes just be like a rough shape or a basic mark. Mostly I'm just trying to not do them so badly that they distract from the piece, and that is essentially my goal with a lot of things in fashion illustration. So up next, I've grabbed my pink oil pastel. I think these were actually water soluble, which I didn't realize at first. Doesn't really matter too much in this instance, but anyway, I'm coming in with some pink oil pastel just to mark in the beautiful shapes of this dress. I'm obsessed with it. I'll keep saying that over and over again because I just love it. It's so creative and vibrant and just fun to look at, basically. So I'm doing a really rough indication of how the dress actually folds. It's basically like a big, roughly pink, masterpiece. So I'm just trying to capture that idea here without actually spending hours and hours doing all of the details, because that's not what I'm doing this art for, and it's not meant to be a super realistic piece. So you can have a bit of fun here, and if there's elements that you want to exaggerate, like now is a great time to do that. You can see I'm just going in to sort of tidy up different areas and add extra thickness where it's needed. Okay, so because I haven't used this watercolor ink before, I'm giving it a bit of a shake here. I don't know what's going to happen when I start using it, but seems okay once I put it down, and I'm using that now to just spread across and become the majority of the fill, in the sense that, like, yeah, the squiggly bit was like fun to do in the oil pastels, and that's capturing information that we definitely need to give to our viewer, but this pink watercolor ink is really going to do the legwork in terms of getting that idea of it being pink across to you. So I guess whenever I use a medium or do anything in art, I'm always considering what my intention behind it is, like exactly what role is that particular medium or stroke or whatever, like what is its aim, is basically how I start and continue throughout my pieces. Right now I'm just unscrewing the red ink to have a look at it, but it's pretty red and it's not really the right kind of red for me. You can see I test it out a little bit before. I think I just kind of decide like, it's okay in a small dose, but that's it. I used to have this really beautiful magenta ink, which I'm definitely gonna have to get more of if I keep doing these illustrations, because it was just so stunning that all I ever wanted to do was paint either like pink or purpley type things so I could rip out that one color. Alright, so I'm coming over the top with this ink still. It's kind of, you just need to keep layering with watercolors and inks to a certain extent as well. Mostly watercolors need all the layers you can get, and you can either leave that to dry between the layers, or you can get some cool effects if you do wet on wet. In this particular incident, I'm not looking to be too precise, so I'm just layering wet on wet. I'm also coming back in just to add a bit of thickness to that neck. So because the ink isn't fully dry on that first layer of features, I'm actually just using a wet paintbrush to drag from the edges out onto the piece. This will depend on how dry that ink is, and also the amount of water on your paintbrush will affect what you can do with that as well. I only wanted it really slightly there, so for me it was fine that it was just sort of dragging a little bit, and if anything I probably regret doing that and maybe would have tackled that in a different way in future. But I think it sort of came out looking okay, so I've just moved along anyway. So I'm going back in here with the pink oil pastel just to sort of clarify some of those ruffles in the dress and to make sure we don't completely lose it just to a big pink smudge of a thing because the ruffles are part of what make that dress so beautiful and we don't want to lose that. Alrighty, so after trying to find white paint, I couldn't find it, so instead I'm using my white oil pastel to come in with some of the details, the highlights on this dress. Honestly, I probably should have let the piece dry before I started doing this. I started to get some tearing on the page at this point because it was just too much friction for the paper, given it was still wet, coming over it with something that's like heavy and waxy, but still like dry-ish. It didn't completely ruin the paper, but if you're following along at home, let it dry first. I think you'll get a better result from it. I'm just sort of adding in highlights where I think they will add to the piece. You don't need to be too precise with this. Again, one of the many reasons why I love fashion illustration. It's just so much fun to play around with. I've grabbed the yellow oil pastel here just to add a bit of a highlight to that earring, which is a beautiful gold in the actual picture. And I've even gone in to try and add some color into the lips, although I don't think it was super successful on my version. Alright, so up next, I decided to grab more of the black ink and a tiny paintbrush to go over the details of the dress and to add in some more information for the viewer. So I really wanted to sort of give a better idea that the zigzags in the dress, or the scallop kind of shape in the dress, is actually ruffles. So I've gone in there and, pleated ruffles is probably more accurate. So I've gone into the dress, and you may not be able to see it completely on camera, but what I'm doing is just adding an indication of the ruffles themselves, just with some really basic line work. I kind of think the simpler the better often. You just want to make sure you're doing really nice, simple, gestural line work that conveys a lot of information in just a few strokes. Alright, so this piece is pretty much done at this point. Honestly, I could have left it here, but I decided to come back over the top with some more of that watercolour ink. I can't get my head around that product name. It's a watercolour ink, I'm pretty sure. So I've decided to just come in to really punch up the vibrancy of that pink in certain areas. Again, I did have some tearing on the page, so probably was not the best idea, but I think overall the final product still looks quite effective, and as you can see, this is just a really simple way to create like super impactful fashion illustration in not much time at all. So thank you everyone for watching today. I really hope this tutorial was helpful for you. I'd love to make more like this. This is a super fun style to do. So if you have any requests, please reach out. Otherwise, leave me a like or a share, or I don't really know the YouTube stuff yet, but just interact. Alright, I'm gonna let this video just roll out to completion, which will be any second now. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!